Hello everybody, I'm Ocean Robbins, welcoming you to day 2 of the 2026 Food Revolution Summit docu-series. Today our topic is one that touches almost every chronic disease on the planet, cooling the fire, beating inflammation and autoimmunity. Chronic inflammation is now understood to be a driver of cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and dozens of autoimmune conditions, and it's reaching epidemic levels. But here's what the research is showing. The foods you eat every day are either feeding that fire or they're putting it out. And today you're going to find out which is which and what to do about it. You're one of hundreds of thousands of people participating in this summit and taking a stand for healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. Welcome. Yesterday we opened with episode 1, Peak Brain Performance. The response has been extraordinary. Joy said, "My top takeaway is less stress, add yoga, meditation, and relax, but don't forget to exercise too." Love it, Joy. Thank you. Sally said, "Thank you for this amazing episode. I especially resonated with the final gentleman and his wife. I was on that same negative path. I've been a member of FRN for several years, so I knew what to do. I've got my brain back in just 6 months. I understand his tears of joy. Ocean, my prayers are with you as you grieve your father's passing. Thank you for remaining faithful to your mission." Sally, thank you for sharing, and I'm so grateful that you've found a path to getting your brain back. Bless you. Thank you for sharing that story. And thank you for your love and support and prayers with my dad's passing. And I feel like my heart's been just so expanded in this past year with the grief and the gratitude. And isn't that remarkable how grief and gratitude can become so inseparable for us? Because we only grieve something because it was beautiful, right? So we're all on this journey. I really feel like the torch that he carried so courageously is in all of our hands now. So thank you for carrying it forward in your way too. Tarek said, "Thank you so much. Brilliant. Always new things coming through for us to benefit from. I look forward to listening to this a first time with my significant other. We just talked about fine-tuning our diet. I am grateful for the time you devoted to pull this together for all of us to improve our lives. Together we can spread this life-saving information far and wide." Tarek from Bangladesh. Tarek, thank you for being here, and wonderful that you're getting to share this with your significant other. It is so much easier when we can share a healthy eating and healthy lifestyle journey with others. It reinforces it, and also a beautiful thing to share together. So grateful you get that opportunity, and so glad you are here with us. Patricia said, "Excellent episode, excellent pace, lots of medical info as well as simple tips to apply immediately." Thank you for naming that, Patricia. It was actually one of our big goals in this year's Food Revolution Summit is to have every episode be loaded up with simple tips you can apply. So you'll see that throughout the episodes, that we love to look back on what the experts are sharing and help make it digestible and absorbable so you can have action steps to help you implement and move forward. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Not just knowing stuff, but doing stuff, right? Diane said, "At 74 years old, way too many friends and relatives have died, but I can't convince anyone except my daughter to change their diets. I have seen all previous summits." Diane, well, first of all, congratulations on seeing all previous summits. We've been doing this for 15 years now. Love that you're part of this community with us, and I'm grateful your daughter is on board with you. For everybody who's ever struggled with having friends or loved ones who don't always behave quite the way you wish they would, I resonate, and we have to just be true to ourselves. To thine own conscience be true. Follow the highest path that you can for your own well-being and integrity, and trust that will help to liberate others in their way. Everybody has to have sovereignty and the opportunity to discover what makes sense for them. There's no one-size-fits-all solution or one perfect diet that everybody should follow. But we're all we're all bumbling along, finding our way on this journey of life and doing the best we can. And sometimes it's pain that pushes us into change. Sometimes it's vision that pulls us forward. Whatever it is that motivates and moves you, just bless you for being willing to be that leader in your own life, because anytime you step outside the status quo and stand for your own integrity and values, you're a leader. And whether anyone follows you or not is not as important as that you are true to your own conscience, values, and hopefully your well-being. So bless you, Diane, on that journey, and we're sending you lots of love. You are not alone. I hope you can feel this community right here standing with you and supporting you on the journey. Susan said, this is my first summit. Yesterday's presentations were so powerful and enlightening. I was able to watch Dean Sherzai's in-depth interview and also very exciting. I started the exercising last night while watching Survivor. I'm excited to see what today holds. Blessings to everyone associated with this summit. Susan, thank you. How awesome that you started putting this into action, moving last night, even while watching the show, and that you got to watch Dean Sherzai's in-depth interview. For those who don't know, every day of the summit, in addition to the docuseries episodes, we also have 3 more expert interviews. We interviewed 41 people going into this summit, and all of those interviews are available indefinitely, like for life, for empowerment package owners, and also available during the summit for free participants on replay until the next day's broadcasts begin. Some of you commented on being cut off in the middle of the stream from yesterday when we opened the broadcast stream for today. I'm sorry, we have limited time and we have to flip it every day so we can share the next day's content. But of course, empowerment packages owners own it for life, and the rest of folks can get it for that full day. So hopefully you'll learn to adjust your timeline to make it work for you if you're not able to get the full empowerment package. And we're sending lots of love and hope you all can feel the love in all of this that we're sharing throughout the summit. Sharon said, I'm from Philadelphia area, came upon FRN 3 years ago. It's provided me with so much knowledge while dealing with many health challenges. Since doing it and putting many recommendations in place, I'm off the 2 blood pressure meds I was on and reflux meds I was on, and I no longer have high blood pressure or IBS that I'd had for years. I know this stuff works, and I still have a long way to go. That's why I'm here. Sharon, thank you for sharing that. Congratulations on making so much progress already in these last 3 years. And you're so right. You know, in a toxic food culture, there's always more to optimize and more to learn. That's why we offer this summit every year. And it's like so many people come back and we share the latest breakthroughs and insights. And for a lot of people, it really does help us go to that next level. It's like you get to a baseline of healthy eating, and then you optimize and you optimize, and the journey just continues. I mean, I've been at this my entire life, and I just recently started a new daily morning habit where I'm having 2 tablespoons of ground flax meal and a couple scoops of amla extract and some creatine powder, and I'm just mixing that up with water as a morning drink, and I just kind of like how that feels, you know? And so you just keep learning new stuff, right? And trying new things and seeing what works for you. Jan said, Ocean and Nicole, is this your last summit you will host? I read somewhere on this page that this will be our last chance. We never know what the future holds, Jan, but we're not planning to go anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, I don't know what you read. Maybe a last chance to register before it started, but we're here and we intend to keep doing this summit into the future because 15 years has been amazing, but we don't feel done here. As you listen to today's presentations and episode, which will start in about 7 minutes, I want to invite you to think about what this information means to you and also who you might want to share it with, because, you know, we all have friends and loved ones who could probably benefit from this information, and we will be more effective and successful if we have peer support. So think about who you could still invite into the summit. If each of us reaches just 10 people, then 250,000 people in the summit actually reaches 2.5 million people, and then maybe they'll reach some people. And just think about the impact that we can have collectively. If you just joined us, I'm Ocean Robbins, sharing welcoming words. We'll be starting the episode 2 of the Food Revolution Summit at the top of the hour in about 5 minutes. Jane said, hello, Ocean. This is very important. I hope you will address the high cost of food these days, especially vegetables, fruit, and so many things that are available in health food stores. I'm a retired woman on a fixed income, and I'm staggered by how much more I'm spending on food. It's practically double what it was 2 to 3 years ago. Please address this issue, and it would be so wonderful if you and your experts could offer tips on how we can all deal with this. Well, thank you, Jane, so much for asking. Yes, this is a major concern. The rising cost of food is real. It's hitting a lot of people hard. The good news is that a whole food and plant-based diet can actually be one of the most affordable ways to eat when you lean on the right staples. So dried and canned legumes like lentils and chickpeas and black beans are nutrient loaded and they're budget friendly. You can go with frozen fruits and vegetables. They're just as nutritious as fresh, sometimes more so. They're often a lot cheaper and they tend to last longer, and you won't tend to have as much waste because you just get out what you actually want and need. You can go for whole grain oats like oats and brown rice and barley, even quinoa stretch a long way per dollar spent. Plan meals around things that are on sale, shop seasonally, buy in bulk where you can if that makes a difference over time. Seasonal produce is almost always cheaper and fresher, so build your meals around what's in season. Of course, grow a garden if you can. Sprouting is a great economical way to get super fresh vegetables into your diet very affordably. Sprouting your own, seeds, broccoli sprouts or other sprouts in your kitchen. You could shop at stores like Trader Joe's or Costco or others that tend to have lower prices on pantry staples. Farmers markets toward the end of the day often have discounts on the food that they're kind of not going to be able to sell otherwise. So those are a few tips that might be helpful. And then you want to avoid waste. So shop from a list. Avoid eating out so much because that you pay a premium for food when you eat out. And focus on the healthy staples. And make sure you go through your fridge regularly to make sure you're not going to waste stuff. So those are some tips that could potentially help you to shop and live healthfully and also affordably. Marie asked, how does black tea compare with coffee for the brain? Marie, great question. So both black tea as well as green tea and mate have a lot of research behind them when it comes to your brain health. And the good news is you really can't go wrong here. Coffee tends to get more attention in the research with studies linking regular consumption to reduce dementia and stroke risk. This is thought to be because of the polyphenols and antioxidants in it. Even decaf gives you a lot of these benefits. So caffeine is not the only factor at play here. But black tea and also green tea contain beneficial polyphenols and antioxidants, and research links it to reduce cognitive decline and improved alertness, but it may also have a lot of other benefits, even for bringing down chronic inflammation. So tea has less caffeine than coffee, which some people find easier to tolerate, and especially green tea contains a unique compound called L-theanine that can promote calm focus without the jitters that caffeine alone sometimes causes. So coffee's got more research backing it up for brain health, but green tea, black tea, oolong are by no means a poor choice. They may actually be healthier overall without as much caffeine. At the end of the day, though, not everyone responds well to caffeine, so you've got to see what's right for your body. And remember, no matter what beverage you're consuming, you're not doing your body any favors if you're loading it up with added sugars or creamers. So go for as natural as possible. Personally, I love to have coffee with Eden Soy unsweetened soy milk, which delivers 12 grams per cup of protein. And I love to put that in like a latte style, so I'll maybe have it be 2 parts Eden Soy to 1 part coffee, and I just find that super delicious and like how it feels in my body. But everyone's got to find what feels right for them. Okay, friends, we are nearing the time for episode 2 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. So as we go through the day, please continue to post and engage in the comment section on the broadcast page. You can share your aha moments, your takeaways, your breakthroughs, what this means in your life. After the episode, I'll be back to answer your questions and share insights and give away some prizes. All right, here we go with episode 2.
What if your food could do more than fuel you?
What if you could eat in a way that adds years to your life and life to your years?
What if the next revolution is not in your medicine cabinet, but in your kitchen?
If you want to make a change, then start with your plate.
Because what you eat shapes your thoughts.
The future is on your plate.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution starts now.
The food revolution starts now.
The food revolution starts now.
The future of food is critical.
Healthy!
Nourishment. Learn how to eat for vitality.
Learn how to eat for cancer prevention.
Learn how to eat for a longer life.
The future of food is now.
Let's do this.
Let's do this!
Right now, inside your body, there's a fire burning. For some people, it's a small, steady flame. For others, it's raging out of control. And most people don't even know it's there.
We're talking about inflammation. When you cut your finger or catch a cold, inflammation is your immune system's healing response, sending white blood cells to fight infection and repair damage. That's acute inflammation, and it saves lives.
Yes, but when that fire keeps burning day after day, month after month, inflammation stops healing and starts destroying. Chronic inflammation drives autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and Hashimoto's. It's also fueling chronic conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and even Alzheimer's.
Most of us have become so accustomed to low-level inflammation that we don't even know what it would feel like to be free of it. We accept joint pain, brain fog, and fatigue as completely normal, and they're not.
In recent years, there's been an explosion of autoimmune diseases. What is fueling this epidemic? And what can we do to cool the flames? I'm Ocean Robbins.
And I'm Nicole D'Andrea Russert.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Food Revolution Summit.
What is inflammation? Basically, inflammation is a protective response by the body to something harmful. So, for example, if you cut yourself or get a burn, your body will produce an inflammatory response to this harmful action. Inflammatory responses are not only limited to physical harm. Other inflammatory response triggers include toxins, bacteria, viruses, allergies, stress, and even some foods such as fried foods, foods with high amounts of added sugar, and refined carbohydrate foods, just to name a few.
Every day we have, countless stresses that we never really get a chance to recover from one, and then we get hit from another. And in the case of our diet, so many things are inflammatory. Animal protein, particularly red meat, is very inflammatory. Sugar is inflammatory. Many of the processed foods are inflammatory. And so, but the inflammation, again, is just one of many mechanisms that underlies so many different chronic diseases.
Inflammation plays a role in so many of the diseases that plague us, not even the ones that we typically think of as inflammatory. We think, inflammatory, we think rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, things like that. But no, diabetes, heart disease, these have an inflammatory component too.
A healthy dose of inflammation is kind of like a fire crew. Rushes in, does the job, and heads home. The trouble starts when the crew never leaves and the sirens never stop blaring.
So why are so many of us living in a constant state of alarm? From ultra-processed foods and toxic exposures to round-the-clock stress and too little sleep, our modern lives stack tinder faster than our bodies can put it out.
So let's find out how everyday choices fan the flames and learn about the one nutrient that acts like lighter fluid on chronic inflammation.
So the single most pro-inflammatory food component, saturated fat. And so if you want to decrease inflammation in your body, the single most thing to avoid is saturated fat. Where's that found? Found in meat, dairy, and tropical oils, right? Palm kernel oil, coconut oil, and palm oil found a lot of junk food because it's very shelf stable. Again, when we talk about macronutrients, you talk about fats, we are talking about the source. What are the sources of those fats? Nothing wrong with nuts, seeds, avocados, super healthy foods, high in fat. That's not the problem. The problem is when we are, getting saturated fats, trans fats, these partially hydrogenated oils, which have been removed from the U.S. food supply, but still kill about 500,000 people around the world where it isn't removed from the food supply. These trans fats found naturally in meat and dairy.
Fried foods and oils are a primary promoter of autoimmune disease, particularly inflammatory bowel disease. A major cause is eating fried foods and oils. You take out the heated oils, and that's a major factor allowing people to get well.
We've just zeroed in on saturated fat as a potent accelerant, but that's only one strand in a web engineered for craveability.
Ultra-processed foods now dominate the modern diet. Composed largely of refined ingredients, added sugars, and industrial additives, they are designed for efficiency and profit. A growing body of research shows that regular consumption can undermine health in ways we're only beginning to fully understand.
Obesity has become very common because we are not only eating tremendous amounts of calories, way in excess of what our bodies require, but the particular combination of sugars and fats eaten at the same time evokes what's called oxidative priority. We burn the sugars and store the fats for later. So when you eat something like ice cream, it is fat and sugar. You burn the sugar and store the fat. When you eat a cheeseburger, you're going to burn the sugar in the white flour bun and then the sugar in the ketchup and store the fat in the meat and the cheese. So we're eating that sugar-fat combination pretty much all day, from the bacon and eggs and toast in the morning to the burgers and fries at lunch and to the fried chicken and the milkshake in the evening. Even the broiled salmon eaten with the grilled potatoes is that fat and sugar combination. So the vast amounts of fat and sugar that we're eating on a daily basis is making us grossly obese. And it's more than just a cosmetic issue, because as fat accumulates, especially inside the abdomen, intra-abdominal fat puts out an array of molecules that sets off inflammation. They're called inflammatory cytokines, and they set off inflammatory conditions all over the body. So obesity basically is a state of inflammation. People can say, well, I'm obese, but I'm still healthy. No, if you're obese, you're fighting inflammation, and that sets the stage for diseases in many kinds of organs.
So there was a study that shows something like 60% of Americans are consuming ultra-processed foods every day. Where I trained in North Philly, which was a food desert, I mean, that's all there was ultra-processed foods. And it sort of makes sense that when you take foods that are very nutritionally devoid and high in calories, and it's typically fat, sugar, salt, that they create inflammation. And we know that when we strip away all of the important nutrients from, say, a grain, all of a sudden it becomes much more inflammatory. So the body takes it in, instantly converts it to sugar. And we know that too much sugar is very inflammatory. We know that too much fat is very inflammatory. And then there's a whole host of additives that make these nutritionally devoid foods artificially colored, right? You think about the chips and the cheese puffs and whatever else. There are all these orangey things that stain your fingers for days or weeks. Like, that's what we're putting in our body. And then on top of that, you may have seen, but a lot of these foods are using titanium-based colorings and additives that may be linked to neurocognitive dysfunction. We know that artificial sweeteners, which are in a lot of these, are linked now to platelet aggregation, which may increase the cardiovascular event rate, particularly in diet drinks, as an example. So we have all these ultra-processed foods that are hitting us from every angle of harm, but they taste so good that people won't give them up.
There's 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, and that one of them is risky substances or avoidance. So that basically refers to things that we consume or are exposed to that can negatively affect your health, either acutely or over time. So those would be things like alcohol, tobacco, excessive caffeine. Coffee in small, 2 to 3 cups is good. Processed sugars, the ultra processed foods, and I say ultra because processed foods could just be cooked beans, right? But ultra processed foods are the ones that have the chemical description that we don't quite understand what they mean unless you have a chemical degree. And then certain environmental toxins like plastics in our environment and things like that. And then even some over-the-counter or prescription drugs, when misused, for example, they matter because over time they kind of chip away at your resilience. So it's just kind of like like you're destroying it. It's kind of like if you think about like a river that creates a canyon over time. It's just that slowly chipping away at the rock. And I would say that would be our resilience or our health as well. And harm might not really show up immediately, but maybe over years or decades, those substances can cause chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalances. You have metabolic disorders like diabetes. You have cardiovascular disease like heart disease, and even some cancers. So you can just kind of think of them as a slow burn contributors to disease.
When you're consuming a diet that's more animal products and processed foods, those are the two categories of foods that the World Health Organization identified way back in 1990 as being the most problematic in terms of the chronic disease risk. And so what's wrong with those? Well, they have almost no fiber. They have very little, phytochemicals are plant chemicals, so very few of those. And antioxidants would be low, but they also come packaged with things that we know to be harmful or pathogenic. So we're talking about things like excessive saturated fat, trans fatty acids, things like inflammatory compounds like Nu-5GC, TMAO, endotoxins, chemical contaminants in the environment, the products of high temperature cooking like heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and advanced glycation end products. These are more concentrated in highly processed foods. And then, of course, and animal products. And of course, highly processed foods have a lot of food additives.
Before we go further, let's pin down exactly what we mean by food. At one end, there are whole foods, beans, berries, grains, greens, pretty much recognizable in their natural form. In the middle sit minimally processed foods. These are things like rolled oats and tofu, homemade guacamole or sautéed bok choy. Foods that are altered for convenience but are still close to nature. And then at the far end are ultra-processed foods. These are packaged products built from refined starches, industrial oils, added sugars, salt, and a chemistry set of additives.
Ultra-processed foods are designed to be addictive, shelf-stable, and cheap. They deliver calories without fiber or phytochemicals, plus a cocktail of pro-inflammatory ingredients that chip away at our health.
Not surprisingly, many people look for an off-ramp, often landing on the popular paleo diet. The pitch is simple. Eat like our ancestors did. Avoid modern processing and inflammation will fall.
This sounds reasonable, but how much of it holds up once we dig into the evidence?
Yeah, the paleo diet, which kind of gets its name from Paleolithic people groups. And this is kind of a look back in human history and with the thought of, well, maybe we should eat what people ate 10,000 years ago. I don't think that's really the most accurate way to try and understand what to eat, but it's an interesting lens. And so when they look back, they found that generally people ate, foraged fruits and vegetables, whatever they could find, grains, and they ate meat. And so it was initially reported this Paleolithic diet would be helpful. I think a lot of people did get better because they were removing sugar and ultra-processed food. And anytime we take ultra-processed food and sugar out, there's a natural reduction in inflammation. And every 1% of processed food in the diet has a dramatic increase in systemic inflammation of almost 10%. So it has a profound effect on the human body.
A paleo dietary pattern can be helpful in bringing down chronic inflammation because it steers clear of ultra-processed foods. And as Dr. Stoll pointed out, removing those products alone can make a massive difference. But many paleo advocates eat a lot of meat and saturated fat, and that creates a new problem.
While reducing ultra-processed foods can lower inflammation, research suggests that diets high in certain animal products may increase inflammatory markers for some people. Approaches like paleo get an important piece right by minimizing refined foods. But the overall impact still depends on what food takes their place.
Yes. So what does the research actually show us about which foods drive inflammation and which ones cool it down? Let's look at the Dietary Inflammatory Index. It's a tool that ranks foods based on their inflammatory potential.
A plant-based diet is essentially synonymous with an anti-inflammatory diet, right? If you look at the Dietary Inflammatory Index, the single most inflammatory food component is saturated fat, right? Where's that fat? Found in meat, dairy, processed junk, these tropical oils. What is the single most anti-inflammatory component of our entire diet? Fiber, dietary fiber. Found only one place in the plant kingdom, found only one place concentrated, and that's in whole plant foods.
Fiber is found in all whole plant foods, but there's no fiber in meat, dairy, eggs, bottled oils, or added sugars. And fiber is one of nature's most powerful anti-inflammatory tools. Scientists now view the gut as mission control for immunity. About 70% of our defensive forces line its walls.
When the microbial community is balanced and diverse, it helps keep inflammation in check. But factors like antibiotics, chronic stress, environmental toxins, and diets low in whole fiber-rich foods can disrupt that balance, potentially triggering immune responses that contribute to autoimmune disease.
So how do we rebuild a microbiome that protects instead of provokes?
Your microbiome is really based off of the bacteria that prefer your diet. So the ones who enjoy it are proliferating, and the ones who don't kind of die off. And so when people are unhealthy and eating unhealthy foods, they've also got an unhealthy microbiome, and those are all tied together.
And this is a Harvard study where they took the same group of volunteers in an urban setting in Boston, and they had them eat essentially like an Atkins type diet, pork rinds and prosciutto. And then they rested them for a few days, and then they put them on a plant-based diet, jasmine rice, lentils, mango instead of pork rinds for snack. And they looked at the microbiome before, during, and after. And this was an important study for a few reasons. Number one, they found that the microbiome started to shift quickly within about 30 hours of the food hitting the gut. They started to see the bibliophilia dropping, the Faecalibacterium prausnitzii rising. The other really astounding thing, though, was that the genes started to change.
We know with autoimmune disease, they can be put into remission, and they can stay into remission. With Hashimoto's, we can say you can put it into remission and you can keep it into remission. And diet is an important component of that, because unless you control your inflammation and improve your gut health, it is nearly impossible to put those antibodies into remission and let your immune system know everything's fine, you're safe, we can calm down, you can stop attacking my thyroid. We are taking care of one another.
With Hashimoto's and any autoimmune disease, they usually start with a leaky gut. And dysbiosis is one of the causes of leaky gut. What is leaky gut? Hyperpermeability of the intestinal tract for those who are scientifically and medically oriented. It's not a made-up condition. It's when the tight junctions in the intestinal tract get opened up. And they get opened up by what we've been talking about from the beginning, which is inflammation.
When the gut lining is damaged, tight junctions in our intestinal tract can separate, creating what's often called leaky gut, or more technically, intestinal hyperpermeability.
When intact, these tight junctions act like bouncers. They decide what enters the bloodstream and what stays out. But poor diet, stress, antibiotics, and toxins can pry them apart. And when that happens, larger food particles slip on through, activate the immune system, and trigger inflammation throughout the body. Over time, this can fuel autoimmune conditions, allergies, and sensitivities.
So we know that certain dietary patterns can damage the gut, disrupt the microbiome, and fuel chronic inflammation. The next question is simple. What can we eat to help restore balance?
I find that the whole food plant-based foods are really very anti-inflammatory. They have all of these different components, the omegas, the polyphenols, all of these different antioxidants that really fight this system that we end up getting this kind of stress cascade, this in your body. It's almost like it's like a water hose to put out a fire, right? And so that's what I recommend for my patients.
If you eat for color, you're getting antioxidants that have an anti-inflammatory effect. And when I say color, everybody knows the orange carrot beta-carotene. Red, watermelon and tomatoes, lycopene. The purple, blueberry, or red strawberries. They've got anthocyanins. A little bit less familiar, but really powerful. When people bring those into their diets, those are strongly associated with weight loss. They appear to be associated with preserving cognitive function late in life. And they also probably are going to affect our mood in a healthful way.
So yes, when it comes to greens, I say, yes, let's eat our beans every day, let's eat our berries. But greens are such an important message for people to say, yes, it can be raw, it can be steamed, it doesn't matter. Let's bring them all. Sprouts or leafy, it doesn't matter.
We've just heard that what you put on your plate can either pour gasoline on inflammation or act like a fire hose.
An anti-inflammatory plate includes vibrant, colorful, fiber-rich plants and flavor-packed herbs and spices, and the details matter.
So up next, let's look at the eating patterns that consistently cool chronic inflammation and even bolster immunity.
The foods we eat can boost our immunity, our protective immunity. And the flip side of an immune system is that it can cause inflammation. Too much inflammation, no good. And so the foods we can also eat can lower the inflammation as well. So these are the core fundamental common denominators of health that everyone has, despite our individuality. And now you ask, what are the sort of the central patterns of eating that support our health? And I will tell you, plant-based foods are universally recognized by every research study to activate our health defenses in one way or another. And in most cases, a single plant-based food will activate multiple health defenses all at the same time. Angiogenesis, stem cells, gut health, or DNA and immunity and stem cells. You know, Mother Nature's very, very smart. And so the interrelationship between the foods that we eat, the quote nutrition, for sustenance, does so much more than provide micro and macronutrients. That's what we used to think when the whole field was of nutrition, which is the youngest science that we actually have, is the science of nutrition, compared to every other science. All right. I mean, think about it. Astronomy was around for a long time. Biology was around a long time. Nutrition is a pretty new science. What we're realizing is that we are now evolving our understanding of nutrition from micro and macronutrients and sustenance of life to activation of these health pathways that prevent us from getting diseases and can reverse chronic diseases.
What I like about that type of food is that because it's also fiber rich, it's also helping to create the barrier in the microbiome. It's decreasing the inflammation from what you would normally get from having a disrupted microbiome or a disrupted gut lining. So these things are really, really important. And I like to maximize nutrition, right? And I add a lot of spices. I have an herb garden, and that's just the best thing, right? You can just go out and grab some herbs and put it inside that, and the flavors. You can change your flavor profiles. You can do so many different things in it and add your own sauces.
I know that even a lot of healthy folks, health conscious eaters, get stuck to this day in a rut of eating far too few healthy foods. We get our 8, 9, 10 favorites, and we're kind of caught on that path. And what you're missing out on is a wide variety of other, antioxidants, the phytonutrients that other foods afford you. Herbs and spices make that much easier. Keep a well-equipped spice rack very front and center in your kitchen, even out there, so you can use those in your cooking, in your food preparation. Try different things in everything, in your smoothies and so forth. It's the most underrated area. These, you don't have to eat a lot. They are loaded with anti-inflammatories, anti-cancers, anti a lot of stuff you don't want in your body, antibacterials. They're powerful foods that nature's given us. If you don't know it, you should know turmeric. But a cousin of turmeric, ginger, still is not getting the spotlight it deserves. It's like a miracle spice, this one, you know. Again, it's ridiculously potent anti-inflammatory. And there's a multitude of ways to use, you know, fresh ginger, like in your morning cereal, like oatmeal or something like that. You can, of course, steep it in teas. It's fantastic. And then the other one that gets even less attention, there's only one way everyone thinks of it. It's cloves. Turns out it's one of the highest antioxidant foods on earth. And it's got a compound in it that's very special in terms of anti-inflammatory and other effects, anti-cancer, called eugenol, E-U-G-E-N-O-L. You can use it in smoothies. You can use it in drinks, cold drinks, and steep in teas, of course, and other ways like that. So those are two of my favorites, actually.
We've heard how the right foods can douse inflammation, but what happens when someone stakes their life on that idea?
Let's return to Dr. Brooke Goldner. At 16, she was told lupus would take her kidneys and likely her life. Let's hear how changing what she ate rewrote her entire prognosis and what it could mean for the rest of us.
Oh, lupus didn't just threaten my life once. I mean, lupus constantly threatened my life for over a decade. I was diagnosed at 16 and I had it for 12 years. So at the time I was 16, I was already in kidney failure. I had arthritis. I had rashes. But when I was diagnosed, my doctor said if I didn't do experimental treatments with chemotherapy, that I had 6 months before my kidneys failed and I could die. So my introduction to lupus was terrifying. And even with chemotherapy and steroids, and I took 7 pills a day from 16 to 18, just trying to get into some kind of remission to save my life. 32 and a half years ago, they were telling me I had 6 months to live. And I'm sitting here right now, almost 50 years old, and I have zero health conditions. Zero. Because I changed the way I ate 20 years ago. And the way the phone call went down was the doctor's office called and said I had to retake the labs because there must have been an error at the lab. Because at that point, I'd had lupus for 12 years straight. And it turns out it wasn't an error. For the first time ever, my labs were negative for lupus. I had no blood clots. My kidneys were normal. And I've never relapsed in 20 years. So what we discovered 20 years ago was really based off of my husband's work. So my husband's a scientist as well. We met at Carnegie Mellon, but he was a computer scientist. I was a biologist. And that's what we decided to come together to really study. How could this nutrition protocol for metabolism actually impact cellular function, cellular repair, and immune function, and possibly reverse diseases? We found that when we look at cellular function, and especially inflammation pathways, anything that comes from animal products actually stimulates the inflammatory immune system. And there's nothing to stop.
The more you eat of that, the more inflammation you generate. And it's why, even when I look at blood tests of people who eat meat-based diets, that they have higher levels of just resting inflammation, as evidenced by things like the white blood count. The people who eat the way I teach on a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet, where they're resting white counts much lower because they're not eating inflammation all day long.
Dr. Goldner calls her approach hyper-nourishment. The goal is to flood the body with the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber that are packed into whole plant foods.
The idea is simple. When nutrient density soars, inflammation drops and the immune system can reset. But what does eating for hyper-nourishment look like in real life?
So hyper-nourishment is a protocol. And we've refined it over the years with experience working with so many people from all over the world, where we wanted to define what are the minimal amounts of these ingredients needed to create a palpable, measurable change in someone's health. So hyper-nourishment has 3 components to it, and people can add hyper-nourishment to any diet, even a junk food diet, even a meat-based diet. If you add these ingredients, you can start creating better health and change in the functioning of your cells. So right now, the way we define it is, number 1, you're getting at least 16 ounces or 454 grams for people outside of the U.S. The raw cruciferous or dark leafy greens like spinach and chard a day, right? Now, you can have that in salad, you can have that in smoothies, but you want to make sure you eat it raw. Only raw cruciferous vegetables, contain high amounts of sulforaphane, which has been proven to be deadly to cancer cells and prevent viruses like the flu virus and COVID virus from even being able to replicate. And sulforaphane is destroyed by cooking. Even last steaming takes it down to less than 3% in your bloodstream. So if you can add a pound a day or 16 ounces a day of these raw cruciferous vegetables, you're going to make it things in your cellular metabolism and health. Omega-3 fatty acids, we use flax and chia seeds. For someone who's generally healthy, a handful a day of those, fantastic. Or maybe a
1 or 2 tablespoons a day, the cold pressed flaxseed oil. You're going to keep inflammation lower. You're going to help your body repair damage. But if you're sick, we go up from there. We'll get people a half a cup a day of those seeds or 3 tablespoons of the oil.
The other component would be water intake. Most people are severely dehydrated, and more studies now are confirming what we've been saying for many years, which is that even minimal amounts of dehydration slows down your metabolism, which affects your ability to lose fat when you exercise, slows down cognition and memory, and it slows down your healing process, cellular repair process. So if people would just listen to the general FDA guidelines of 64 ounces of water a day, they'd at least not be severely dehydrated. But many people are getting less than that, and it's causing migraines and constipation, as well as the other symptoms I just mentioned. We get people up higher than that as long as they can tolerate it. And not everyone can. Some people have kidney issues or heart failure where they can't tolerate it. And so I will individualize that. But generally speaking, we get people up to 96 to 128 ounces of water a day, which is like 2.8 to 3.8 liters. And yes, they're paying a lot more than they used to, but inflammation comes crashing down and they feel so much more energized. The combination of these 3 different components in these amounts is what we call hyper-nourishment. And it's really neat that you can combine them into something like our green smoothie recipes. I'm known as a smoothie lady for a reason. It's because we found that if you put those veggies, those leafy greens into a blender and you add the flax and chia seeds and then you add the water into that, throw in some fruit for flavor and blend it, and most people will happily consume those ingredients through a straw that they might struggle to figure out how to eat if you just kind of hand it to them on a plate.
Dr. Goldner's hyper-nourishment isn't just theory. It's helped thousands of her patients to turn the tide on conditions as serious as lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. If you're battling something big, you might be ready for a pound of green smoothie and a jumbo water bottle.
But you don't always have to go that far to calm inflammation. The core principles, nutrient density, fiber, and anti-inflammatory fats, can be scaled to fit your own health needs, culture, and taste buds.
So how do we customize the blueprint? How do cultural preferences shape what an anti-inflammatory diet actually looks like on your plate? And what if you're dealing with digestive sensitivities that make even super healthy foods feel hard to tolerate?
Dr. David Katz has spent his career studying how to make evidence-based nutrition work in the real world, across cultures and preferences and individual needs. Let's hear his perspective.
If you offer somebody who doesn't eat dairy because they're Asian and lactose intolerant, the DASH diet, it's going to go over like the proverbial lead balloon. If you offer them an optimized version of their native diet, and it has all the same levels of calcium, magnesium, and fiber, and sodium, and so forth as the DASH diet, and the same objectively measured diet quality, you get the same health outcomes, but it's actually food they're willing to eat. So that's really important. So if we want people to change their dietary behavior and do it sustainably, one of the critical things we need to do is enable them to love food that loves them back. And that's a critical element, I think, in providing actionable dietary guidance. And it requires that we think about a multicultural population. Yeah. And it requires that we recognize that even though eating more plants would be good for everybody, the specific advice people want to get is specific to them.
I would say simple starches like potatoes and rice can often be very well digested. I like to use hypoallergenic protein sources. Pumfu is one of my favorites, pumpkin seed tofu, because pumpkin seeds are not high FODMAP, high sulfur, high histamine, very easy to digest. So using things like pumfu can be wonderful in the time being. Certain vegetables are quite easy to eat, digest, and tolerate, such as zucchini or carrots or even celery in certain portions. So people can focus on those and again, kind of pre-digest the fiber if they're having a hard time with the fiber. Certain fruits can be a lot easier to eat, digest, and tolerate as well. Berries are a prime example of that, where blueberries can usually be extremely easy to eat, digest, and tolerate, especially if somebody's having something like a frozen blueberry. So that can be just a very simple 1 week. If somebody just needs to take a digestion break, I always say, as they're figuring out what's causing them to need to eliminate some of those other things, you do need to be either searching yourself or working with a team who can help you find those answers so you can bring them back.
Sometimes one ingredient makes all the difference. And for many with autoimmune troubles, that ingredient is dairy.
Just ask Michelle Fosnot. She'd suffered from MS and lupus for decades. She stopped eating dairy and her life changed in ways she could never have imagined.
I was really sick for a really long time, and I was seeing doctor after doctor after doctor from state to state, and I was diagnosed with progressive MS and with lupus. I started MS medication, and the MS medication, it did help, but I still wasn't better. It helped me from having these big, massive flares that I lived with 365 days a year. Even though the medication helped, it didn't fix me. It didn't make my life like, I didn't go from sick to great. I just went from literally what felt like I was pretty much dying all the time. I was in massive pain. I couldn't see. I couldn't walk. I mean, my life, it was really tough. I mean, really tough. I became a member of Death with Dignity. I was very scared of where my life was going. They told me that I would be in a nursing home by the time I was 50. One day I was laying in bed watching Facebook. And at this point, just to go back a little bit, I had been a vegetarian most of my life. So I'm at home one night on Facebook and a video of a cow comes on, and it is really heart-wrenching. And the baby cow is being torn from the mom cow. I'm now finding out that the mom cow is being sent to the slaughterhouse. And I thought that by not eating beef, that I was not part of sending cows to a slaughterhouse. And then I found out dairy cows all go there, and I didn't know any of this, and I was just devastated. So at that moment, I gave up dairy. I consumed so much dairy through the form of cheese, you would not believe it. I had it at every meal. I was like a total cheese addict. Every meal I ate cheese. So I gave it up. It was Friday night that I watched the cow on Facebook, and it was Sunday morning. So we're not talking a lot of time here. I woke up, and I remember this day very clearly because it was a Sunday, and my husband and I were both in bed. I said to him, I can feel my legs. Like, my legs were always completely numb and tingly and heavy. And I said, I can feel my legs. That's really weird. Like, that was a very odd thing for me. I could feel my brain, which I know sounds very strange, but anyone with MS or lupus will probably know what I'm talking about. I lived with severe brain fog all the time, and I didn't have it at the moment. And I was like, this is so weird. And so at that moment, I totally believed 100% that dairy was the reason. Not having it for 48 hours was making this big difference in my health. And so I continued that process, and I continued learning, and that is what put me in the direction I'm in. I don't have vision issues or walking issues. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Okay, we still have, I still have MS. MS is not curable. It can be put into remission. But I was having attacks and problems 365 days a year. Every day of my life I had an issue. I don't live like that anymore. Not at all. And lupus, they will say, is cured.
Michelle's turnaround shows what removing a single trigger can sometimes do. But long-term healing also depends on what we add. So what does it really take to shift the gut microbiome in a way that brings down inflammation ongoingly?
So eating lots of plants, all of a sudden your asthma gets better. You're like, wait a second, what does food have to do with our lung function? Well, asthma is a pro-inflammatory disease. You inflamed airways, and you produce these short-chain fatty acids from the fiber that we eat. Our microbes do, and they tamp down inflammation in our lungs. And you can prove that it's the fiber because you can actually, squirt short-chain fatty acids with rectal infusions and the amount of short-chain fatty acids you would get eating a bean burrito or something, you can see the turning down of inflammation, the decrease in asthma attacks. And so we have that kind of causal evidence proving that our gut microbiome can have significant impacts on our immune function. And so where are these prebiotics found? Only one place in the plant kingdom, only one place concentrated, the whole plant foods. And so, because of improved circulation, anti-inflammatory nature, and microbiome building effects, no wonder a plant-based diet can have effects on multiple organ systems, including the most important organ of all, our brain.
We've just learned how loading up on fiber can cool inflammation, but some popular blogs say certain plant foods actually stoke the fire.
Nightshades, lectins, oxalate-rich greens, tomatoes, beans, and even spinach often land on the avoid list for people with joint pain or autoimmune issues.
So what does the science really say? Are these foods hidden hazards or nutrient powerhouses that simply need the right context?
The research generally shows that the more of those classes of food you eat, the longer you live and the lower rates of cancer you have. That's because foods that contain nightshades, like tomatoes and peppers, also contain phytonutrients and carotenoids that protect against cancer. And that's because things that contain oxalates, like green vegetables, like spinach, have other powerful anti-cancer compounds. So generally speaking, the exposure to those foods linked to longer life and heightened anti-cancer protection. But if you have too much of those foods, especially in people who genetically are kidney stone formers, like oxalic acid in spinach and beet tops and parsley and Swiss chard, maybe if that's mostly the greens you're eating, then your calcium absorption would go down, and if you're a stone former, your ability to form stones would go up, and there would be some pro-inflammation from that. So yes, we don't want those high oxalic vegetables to be only what we eat. But when they're eaten in balance, when they're 10 to 20% of your diet, then you're eating a lot of non-oxalate containing green vegetables like lettuce and kale. And so yes, when it's in balance, they're really good for us. Mm-hmm. When they're out of balance and that's all you're eating, it's not a good relationship with the oxalic acid in food. So tomatoes and peppers contain called the nightshades, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some people that are more genetically nightshade sensitive, but that's less than 1 in 20 people. And even those people, it's not 1 in 20 that can't eat nightshades. It's much less than that. It's like 1 in 50 who can't eat nightshades. The 1 in 20 who's sensitive to nightshades can still eat smaller amounts of nightshades. They just can't eat a lot amount of nightshades. Mm-hmm. So again, we're talking about balance in the diet. Mm-hmm. There are some individuals, most likely because of poor health and unhealthy eating, that can become enhance their nightshade sensitivity, almost like an allergy, or be more sensitive to lectins in beans, like an allergy, because they ate so unhealthy and they didn't develop the right bacteria in the gut to utilize and digest these foods properly. And now they've become hyper nightshade sensitive or hyperlectin sensitive, but that's not really a normal person.
Let's be clear. Nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant are generally healthy foods, and they're packed with protective phytonutrients. The same goes for foods that are high in oxalates like spinach and beets and Swiss chard, and foods containing lectins like beans and lentils. For most people, these foods are anti-inflammatory and deeply nourishing.
Absolutely. But for some people, particularly those dealing with autoimmune conditions or gut inflammation, some of these foods can trigger sensitivity. The issue isn't usually the foods themselves, it is often that an inflamed, damaged gut lining is reacting to compounds it would normally handle just fine.
So here's what matters. If you suspect nightshades or high oxalate foods are causing problems, you don't necessarily need to cross them off your diet forever. As your gut heals through an anti-inflammatory diet, your tolerance often improves. In the meantime, you can emphasize low oxalate greens like lettuce and kale and bok choy, and cook your beans thoroughly to reduce lectins, which also makes them easier to digest.
The key is balance and listening to your body. Rotate your greens, diversify your vegetables, and if certain foods consistently cause problems, it is okay to take a break while you heal. These aren't bad foods. They are powerful foods that some people need to approach strategically.
But there's another food component that sparks even more debate: gluten. Is it a harmless or even helpful grain protein, or is it a gut wrecker and a trigger for autoimmune conditions?
Now, the answer isn't the same for everyone, and genetics really only tells part of the story. So let's unpack what science and real-world experience actually show about gluten, celiac disease, and non-celiac gluten sensitivity.
There are people that have the genetic markers, they consume gluten-containing foods, and they do not have celiac disease. Because the diagnosis for celiac disease is you have to have a biopsy of your gut lining. And if you see certain changes, then yes, then you say you have celiac disease and you should avoid gluten. There are people that do not have the gene variant, but they have a gluten sensitivity. And the gluten sensitivity can show up in two different ways. For some people, they have symptoms that are related to GI tract. And then by and large, some GI doctors would then say, if that's your case, then you experiment with different gluten-containing foods and you see how you respond. But then when you consume gluten-containing foods and you have symptoms that go outside of GI system, there are people that have joint pains, there are people that have headache, there are people that have eczema sort of symptoms, then it's something for you to pause. Look at maybe, is it everything that contains gluten that makes you feel the symptoms or specific products? You can play around and you can see, and you can go through an elimination diet and then bring back the things that you eliminated and see how you respond.
I usually expect to see a breakthrough within the first month or so. If I don't, then I'll start playing around and go, okay, you know what? Let's take this ingredient out and see how you feel. And if within a few days that goes away, all right, for now, won't eat that one ingredient. When you're fully well, you'll be able to add it back. So that's when I usually start looking for food sensitivities. And for some reason, you're not rapidly getting the results like that would expect.
We've seen how the right foods can transform gut health and cool inflammation. But there's a factor that can override even the most anti-inflammatory diet: chronic stress.
Stress isn't just a feeling. It is a full body biological response. And when that response gets stuck in the on position, it becomes one of the most powerful drivers of inflammation throughout your body.
Your adrenal glands release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. In short bursts, these hormones help you respond to real threats. But when they're elevated day after day, week after week, they keep your immune system on high alert and your inflammation levels simmering.
Let's take a look at what happens in the body when stress becomes chronic and how that cycle can be disrupted.
Cramming for a test? Trying to get more done than you have time to do? Stress is a feeling we all experience when we are challenged or overwhelmed. But more than just an emotion, stress is a hardwired physical response that travels throughout your entire body. In the short term, stress can be advantageous, but when activated too often or too long, your primitive fight or flight stress response not only changes your brain, but also damages many of the other organs and cells throughout your body. Your adrenal gland releases the stress hormones cortisol, epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine.
So what does chronic stress actually do to your body? Well, it raises cortisol, which drives inflammation and disrupts your microbiome and increases deep belly fat, which is the kind that actively fuels more inflammation and raises your risk of heart disease and insulin resistance.
Those stress signals travel along the vagus nerve between your brain and your gut, affecting digestion, immunity, and mood all at once. That's why stress can trigger IBS symptoms, heartburn, or that anxious feeling in your stomach. It can slow down or speed up digestion. It can shift your gut bacteria and even contribute to acne, hair loss, headaches, muscle tension, and fatigue.
And here's something important. Research shows these stress-driven changes can set the stage for plaque buildup in your arteries, which increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. So the stakes are real.
What really matters is how you respond to stress. When challenges are seen as manageable rather than overwhelming, the body tends to settle and respond more calmly. And there are simple, effective practices that can help shift the nervous system from fight or flight to, I've got this.
So something as simple as a 4-7-8 breath or a box breathing can be beneficial. Humming, chanting, singing. What do I do with my children patients? I always ask them, I'm like, tell me what your favorite song is right now, your favorite artist. And then for some reason, right now, and probably most of the time, it's always Taylor Swift. And I'm like, all right, tell me the song. And then they tell me the song. And I'm like, all right, the next time you feel stressed or you feel like there's overwhelm going on, just sing the song. Doesn't matter who's there. Doesn't matter, go in the bathroom and sing whatever you got to do, sing the song, right? You can activate the vagus nerve because it travels right behind there, right? So by singing. Another way to activate it is gargling, right? So if you're stressed out in the morning, after you're done brushing your teeth, gargle with some salt water, and then splashes of cold water. So this is all like very simple vagal nerve stimulation, nature exposure, okay? Nature exposure will also lower your salivary cortisol, things like forest bathing and grounding. And even 20 minutes in a green space can help decrease those pro-inflammatory cytokines, okay? And if you can't get to a green space, say it's winter time, put a picture up, like just look at the green space and do a visualization around it, because even that can work.
There's all types of breath work, that there's been great events out there that you could see online that do this. You could, certainly search online. However, one of my favorites called, interesting name, the physiological sigh. It's an interesting name. And this is confirmed in research, including at Stanford University, to have a very fast and powerful effect on reducing stress, anxiety, that physical feelings of tension in the body, when that heart is racing because you're worried about something. It's tremendous for that. And what you do is basically, it's also simple. It's 2 quick breaths in like this. Then that slow release out. And then 2 breaths in quick again, and that slow release out. And even doing that for just 1 minute has demonstrated to have quite significant impact on reducing stress and stuff like that. I use this all the time. I do other methods as well, but that's great for, even before bed. That's great during the day. If you find yourself in one of those tense situations or your mind's racing and anything like that, breath work in general and the physiological sigh, a name just that I love for some reason as well, that specific breath work's awesome.
A few mindful breaths. A walk beneath the trees, a quick sing-along in the shower. These are tiny practices that can flip our stress switch in minutes.
And scientists are finding that the benefits go well beyond calm nerves. Acts of compassion, meaningful relationships, even a clear sense of purpose, all dial down inflammatory markers in the blood.
In other words, loving well and living for something bigger than ourselves aren't just feel-good ideas. They are biochemistry in action.
My dad used to quote Bradley Miller, teaching a child not to step on a caterpillar is as valuable to the child as it is to the caterpillar. Turns out there's research to back that up. It turns out that compassion is good for us. There was an 8-week compassion training that found that people who practiced compassion had less stress and inflammation in their bodies. And this was published in European Psychiatry in 2024. We're learning more and more about altruism and kindness, and that it's good for our health.
One of my early mentors, a guy by the name of Robert Butler, is the first director of the National Institutes on Aging. He examined the writings of over 1,000 people and found that people whose writings reflected a sense of purpose or life meaning were living about 8 years longer than rudderless people. And that was my observation in blue zones as well, that people off the top of their head could tell me why they woke up in the morning. And, people who have a sense of purpose, first of all, I think they're more likely to get physical activity and eat well and take their medicines, etc. But I also think there's a sense of what I call existential stress that comes from waking up in the morning and not knowing what the hell you're going to do with your life.
Gratitude is one of the heart qualities that get you into coherence. Remember, I said love, care, appreciation, kindness, gratitude. It's one of the easiest because it's one of the easiest for people to feel. Just like kindness is so easy for people to feel. And you focus on that and you breathe that, and it changes the electromagnetic energy from the heart and how the heart talks to the brain. It changes the communication with every cell, because every heartbeat, you can pick it up at any cell of the body. It's the strongest generator of electricity in the body. So that pattern of how you're feeling is affecting every cell of your body. And so what we want to be able to do is put out more gratitude to ourselves, to each other, to life. And that enhances our vibration, lifts our perceptions, and increases our coherence. So compassion is similar. Compassion is another one of those heart qualities that nurtures us, that feels good, and also brings our heart rhythms into more coherence. So any of them, compassion, appreciation, gratitude, unconditional, just pure love, kindness, all have been called qualities of spirit, joy. Whatever we can conjure up to feel is going to help us get coherent.
We've explored how food calms inflammation and how gratitude and purpose protect our health from the inside out. But there's another layer to address: what we're exposed to in our everyday environment.
Your exposome. Everything outside your body that affects what's happening inside your body. It includes the air you breathe, the products you use, and the materials in your home. Many common household items contain endocrine disruptors, which are chemicals that interfere with your hormones and can fuel inflammation.
Yes. Now, the good news is you don't need to overhaul your entire life. A few strategic swaps can significantly reduce your toxic load. So let's look at where to focus your efforts for maximum impact.
So the exposome encompasses everything outside of your body that is affecting your body. We call that the exposome. This room we're in, where do you work, your car environment, your home environment, is it just full of dander, mold? Is it full of chemicals that are sloughing off the wall over time, plastic residues, and so much more that we're exposed to that we just really don't think about that all contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of endocrine disruptors and hormone mimickers like xenoestrogens, poisonous estrogens that disrupt the body from utilizing the naturally produced estrogens, things like that. Things in the environment, all these environmental chemicals, like, for example, the plastics in bottles, like people are drinking water bottles, throwing them in their back seat. They're getting heated. All those chemicals are leaching into the water, and then they're drinking that. And that's a chemical disruptor, right? So how do we do that? Plus the air, like the paint that we put on our walls, the formaldehyde in the rugs, the cleaning supplies and all that. So one really good way at home is to have an air filter, right? So not to allow those things to build up. Use the cleanest products you can. The cleanest you can. But if you moved into a house and it was painted 3 years ago and it doesn't need new painting because the paint's in good shape, and it's an expense to go and repaint the whole house, right? That would be the ideal, is to get one of the non-VOC or low VOC paints.
PFAS, PFAS as they're called, per and polyfluoro, I don't need to say the long word. They're PFAS, right? PFASs are some nasty chemicals, unfortunately, that are very prevalent in a number of places, including in that nonstick coating. These things, they're associated with all kinds of things. Again, thyroid dysfunctions, high cholesterol, weakened immunity, all kinds of issues with PFAS, and that's a top source of them. Cookware wise, just a reminder, you've heard this before, but it is important. Consider ceramic coated a better choice. Consider stainless steel is a better choice. Iron is a controversial, but certainly better choice than these. Some people are pro because it actually does leach iron into your food, and if you're iron deficient, it might be a good way to get some iron. But for that very same reason, others, are cautious about the iron cookware. But it's certainly a better choice than these non-sticks. So those are three areas that I would focus on because they're powerful in a negative way sources of toxins, but they're easy swaps, relatively speaking.
We've covered smart swaps for cookware and containers and household products, and these are all wonderful ways to reduce your toxic load. Of course, environmental health isn't just about what we eat or the products we use. It's also about what neighborhoods we live in and what foods we can access.
Zip code and income often shape exposure to pollution, access to clean water and safe outdoor spaces in which to exercise, and of course, availability of healthy food. These aren't just individual choices. They're structural realities that all too often drive health disparities.
But one of the things that gives me hope is that good nutrition doesn't require expensive specialty stores, or it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. Some of us have this belief that healthy food is some kind of elitist luxury, like it's mainly for rich folks. Whole Foods got the unfortunate nickname a while back, Whole Paycheck, because truth be told, there are big profits to be made from highly marked up products that have some kind of a health halo. But the basics are foods like beans and lentils, corn and rice, sweet potatoes, and even cabbage and onions. And they're actually quite affordable.
That's right. You hear over and over, we have to get more fresh fruits and vegetables in the inner city. And I actually think that is completely wrong. Not that it wouldn't be good, but it's the wrong place to start. Fresh fruits and vegetables are expensive. They're not shelf stable. People don't often know what to do with them. But in the inner city, where you have a high percentage of African Americans and Latin Americans, they know exactly what to do with beans and corn tortillas. And African Americans have I've written a book about this, have a rich history of knowing exactly what to do with beans and rice to make them taste delicious. And both of those inputs get you about 95% the way there. It's complex carbohydrates, it's potassium, it's folate. I mean, there's a litany of vitamins and minerals you need for under $1 a serving, and with a flavor palette that the people are going to like. And it's shelf stable, and you can cook it in one pot. So I think we need to start with beans and grains in the inner city, and those are both cheap.
The truth is that whether or not we can control our environment externally, we all have powerful choices to make about what we do control, what we eat, how we move, how we sleep. And these are not small things. They're the foundation.
And progress doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. Every colorful vegetable, every good night's sleep, every stress-relieving breath counts. Small changes really do compound over time.
So what's a good place to start?
I would say something easy to just start right now would be at every meal that you have, or snack, every meal and snack, just add something colorful to your plate. So if you're having some toast in the morning, could you just have a handful of berries with it? At lunchtime, could you add a handful of carrots to whatever sandwich you're having? You don't have to change anything else. And then for dinner, can you throw some spinach in that pasta? Again, if you're allowed to have that. These are all things you want to check that they don't interact with medications, so your doctor can tell you that. But I think a small step is just adding in. When you add in things, maybe you'll start slowly decreasing other things. So if we keep adding, we'll slowly decrease, and that usually helps. You want to get a win right away. So I'm not going to say if someone comes in and they want to change their health, if they want to go full on plant-based, awesome, we can do that. But if they're a little bit timid and are not confident, I like to get a win. And that is just eating one plant-based meal a day. So if they can just swap out their normal breakfast sandwich that has eggs on it for a bowl of oatmeal or just some toast with a little bit of nut butter, that's a win. And then we start there. And maybe we swap out one lunch that week with a hummus and veggie wrap. And one dinner we make lentil walnut tacos instead of beef tacos. I like to start there and build from it. I think the hardest part about going plant-based is you don't have all the ingredients, you don't have all the pantry items yet. But if you keep buying things little by little, all of a sudden you have nutritional yeast for that recipe now, and you have tahini there, and you acquire all these things slowly. And then you also get a list of recipes that you like. So once you have things you like, I feel like it's easy to say, let's do more meals this way, because now you have a whole list of things that you can eat.
As we've seen in this episode, inflammation is not destiny. It's a fire that we can cool with everyday choices, including what we eat, how we move, how we breathe, and what we surround ourselves with.
And when that fire dies down, everything shifts. Clearer thinking, steadier energy, pain that loosens its grip, a body that feels like it's on your side again.
But inflammation doesn't work alone. It targets specific systems in your body with devastating precision, particularly your heart and your blood sugar regulation. And that is where we're headed next.
In episode 3, we're exploring two of the most critical health challenges of our time: cardiovascular disease and diabetes. You'll hear from people who've reversed heart disease, stabilized their blood sugar, and reclaimed decades of vitality. Not through luck, but through strategic, evidence-based action.
If you or someone you love is dealing with high blood pressure or high cholesterol or prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, this episode could be life-changing. We'll show you exactly how to prevent and reverse cardiovascular risk, how to stabilize glucose, so that your most vital engine keeps on beating strong for decades to come.
Join us for episode 3.
Your heart is counting on you. We'll see you there. Let's do this.
Thank you so much for sharing in that powerful episode. To express your opinions on what you're hearing and to find out what others are saying, post and engage in the comment section on our broadcast page. Make sure you refresh the comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones. Carol said, yesterday after the session, I had a wonderful yoga class and followed up with 25 laps in the pool, which is my typical meditation time. I devoted each lap to affirmations and then focused on foods in each color of the rainbow, which I recall Ocean talking about in the summit. I visualized a color for each lap, like I love red foods, strawberries, pomegranates, tomatoes, red peppers, and beets. Then a yellow lap, a green lap, a purple lap, etc. What a fun swim. Carol, I love it. This is such a beautiful example of how we can stack positive things on top of each other, right? So we talk about the pillars of lifestyle medicine: eat better, stress less, love more, move more. And you can combine these things and get twofers. You can share loving connection with people around healthy food. You can exercise while you're doing mindfulness meditations or practicing affirmations, deepening your celebration of loving foods that love you back. Beautiful, Carol. Thank you for sharing. Leanne said, I've been dealing with rheumatoid arthritis for many years. Lost our youngest son a year ago to a gastrointestinal bleed. My husband and I are both 69 years old. I found FRN soon after my son's death, and it's given me hope and something to focus on. I purchased the empowerment package to share with my family. Thank you so much. Leanne, we're sending you so much love. I'm sorry that you're dealing with rheumatoid arthritis and that you lost your son. We're just holding you and your husband in our prayers and hearts. I hope you can feel the love and the support in the midst of the grief. I'm glad you're feeling some hope and something positive to focus on. Thank you for investing in the empowerment package. I hope it empowers and supports you to carry this on and also spread the word with your family for many years to come. We're sending you lots of love. Maggie said, I'm confused in so many ways. Oats. I have organic sprouted ones, but heard the only purpose is to fatten horses and that they're horrible for your health. I'm a retired RN/RD, so I've done a deep dive lately to catch up on research. Well, Maggie, thank you for reaching out. As a retired RN and RD, you probably know better than most how much nutrition advice swings back and forth over the years. And oats are a great example of what I think is a super healthy food that's gotten caught in some of that confusion. So the oats are just horse food narrative, tends to come from low carb and carnivore diet circles. I understand there's concerns people raise about blood sugar, but the research on oats is actually really strong. They're one of the best sources of a specific kind of soluble fiber called beta-glucan, which has impressive evidence behind it for lowering LDL cholesterol. Some people start having oats every morning for breakfast and watch their LDL cholesterol drop by 10 or 15 points just from that. Oats can support healthy blood sugar regulation, and they feed beneficial gut bacteria. They're also a good source of resistant starch, especially when they're prepared as overnight oats, so they're not actually cooked. Now, the fact that you're choosing organic sprouted oats puts you kind of at the top of the class, because sprouting increases nutrient bioavailability and it reduces some of the compounds that can interfere with mineral absorption. So I'd say keep enjoying them with confidence. You may want to pair them with some berries. Bonus points if you put in some ground flaxseed, then you'll have one of the most fiber-rich and microbiome-friendly breakfasts that's available. Truly, when we asked our summit speakers what their favorite breakfast was, about half of them said oats. Now, some of the confusion here could come from lumping instant oat meals that come with sugars and various flavorings in the same bucket as whole grain oats or sprouted oats even. From a glycemic response perspective, these are quite different. Ideally, you want to pair oats with some protein and healthy fats or fiber-rich foods. But again, adding in berries and some flax can really make them a kind of a super breakfast, in my opinion. Catherine said, Ocean, your dad said he used allulose to sweeten his coffee. Is allulose okay, or is it just as bad as the other artificial sweeteners? If I remember correctly, he said it was made using enzymes. Well, Catherine, what a lovely memory of my dad. He did love his morning coffee. Thanks for sharing that. So allulose is one of the more interesting sweeteners out there, and it's quite different from artificial sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose. It's technically a rare sugar that occurs naturally in small amounts in foods like figs and raisins and even wheat. It's made commercially using enzymes that convert fructose, so your memory is right. What makes allulose interesting is that your body absorbs it, but it doesn't metabolize it in the way that it metabolizes regular sugar. So it actually contributes almost no calories and has no real impact on blood sugar or insulin levels. So that makes it really different from most sweeteners, whether artificial or otherwise. The research on it is still kind of limited compared to more established sweeteners, but what we have so far looks fairly positive. There don't appear to be the same gut microbiome disruption concerns that we get with some of the artificial and no-calorie sweeteners. And some people do experience digestive discomfort in large amounts, so moderation is probably wise. But overall, I'd currently put allulose in the probably fine and better than most alternatives category. Personally, I've learned to enjoy coffee with just unsweetened soy milk as a kind of latte, but of course everyone has to find what feels best for them. Carol said, everything, literally everything, has microplastics. Can you address the concerns that these molecules are accelerating disease states like dementia, Parkinson's, and cancer? And can you discuss this concern when sourcing supplements? Well, Carol, thank you for raising this. So the research is still catching up, but what we're seeing is concerning. Studies have found microplastics in human brain tissue at higher concentrations than any other organ. And brain tissue from people with dementia has shown significantly higher levels than those without. Researchers are finding plausible links to neuroinflammation, amyloid plaque formation, and oxidative stress, all of which are relevant to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and cancer risk. There's also a link between microplastics and hormone imbalances. So the evidence is not super definitive, but it is building, and it's worth taking very seriously. Now on supplements, this is a concern especially with fish oil supplements because they have been found to contain microplastics and heavy metals in some cases, and that's one of the arguments for choosing algae-based omega-3 supplements instead if you're going to take an omega-3 supplement. More broadly, looking for third-party tested products and choosing brands that prioritize purity and opting for glass packaging when possible over plastic can all be smart moves. The best overall protection from microplastics is a diet that's rich in fiber and antioxidants from whole plant foods, which helps your body's natural detox pathways. And then, of course, obviously, you want to reduce plastic exposure wherever you can. So in our family, we don't use plastic containers to store food, especially hot food. We use glass containers. They do have plastic lids that snap on, but that's not directly touching the food. We sometimes use silicone bags instead of plastic ones, especially in the freezer. We use metal tiffins like this one, which has a snap-on lid. I put my lunch in this, and it's got a silicone seal, and I really like these. You could use a water bottle, like a metal water bottle. Fill it up with water. Don't drink bottled water if you can help it. I mean, when you're on the go and you have no other choice, cool, better to drink water than not. But have a home water filter or a good source of water that you can drink directly if you possibly can. And then fill up a nice water bottle. By the way, I learned a lot of them are only like 2 cups. This is 4 cups. And the nice thing about a big one is you'll probably drink more if you fill that up every day, and make sure you drink that along with whatever else you drink through the day. So those are a few tips that can help. So reduce exposure to plastics, eat detoxifying foods, and think about fish in this regard, because a lot of fish is highly contaminated with microplastics. So that's a good reason to go fish-free or low fish, or focus on, if you are going to eat fish that are lower on the food chain, smaller fish rather than the big ones like tuna or especially shark, because the higher up you go on the food chain, the more bioaccumulation you get of heavy metals and also often microplastics. Sandra said, I've shared this summit with over 12 people and a friend in Brazil as well. I had planned on purchasing the summit this year, but a twister took down a tree I had to pay services to clean up, and my washer died. Having lost my job last September, all my tax return monies were utilized. But I love your great work. God willing, maybe I can budget for next year. Well, Sandra, thank you. Sorry it's been a tough year. We don't want you to have to wait for next year to have the empowerment package, so we're going to gift it to you. Our team will be in touch. Congratulations. You'll now have all of the summit recordings and transcripts for life, so you can join in anytime. I hope it supports you on your path, and we're just sending you lots of love on your journey, and I know you'll put it all to good use. Bridget said, missed day 1 due to work, looking after my mom who has dementia, which is hard to watch. Also a kinship career for my 10-year-old granddaughter. Love your summits as always, trying to stay healthy and share your wonderful info with my clients as a therapist. Thanks from the UK. Well, Bridget, we're sending lots of love to you. So sorry to hear what your mom is going through. And we want to support you in serving your clients as a therapist and in living this food revolution in all the ways. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package as well. That means you'll have day 1 and the whole summit. And by the way, friends, one of the things we're offering this year specifically for empowerment package owners is a daily Live with the Experts session. So at the end of every day's broadcast, we'll have a live Zoom event at 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern time. For a half hour with another expert every day, and that's just for empowerment package owners. So if you've got specific questions and you want to engage directly with one of our top experts, that is an amazing space to be in. Of course, Bridget and Sandra, our team, will be in touch with you ASAP. Hopefully you can even join us for today's Live with the Expert with Dr. Rita Marie Lascalzo, which comes up in about 40 minutes. Congratulations to both of you and to all of our new empowerment package owners, including Stephanie from New Hampshire, Denise from South Carolina, Bridget from Pennsylvania, Lynn from Minnesota, Joyce from West Virginia, Melissa from Georgia, Maria from Florida, Margaret from Illinois. Thank you all, everybody who's investing in your health and in our mission. Every empowerment package purchased helps us to reach about 10 more people with the summit, spread the word, and inspire more people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we prepared for this summit, we interviewed 41 of the world's top food and health experts. We could only fit a fraction of that conversation into each episode. So if you want to go deeper with any of these experts, every day of the summit, we have 3 full-length expert interviews airing for free. So make sure you're checking those out as we go along through the journey. Landy said, I'm deeply grateful to have found Food Revolution back in 2020. At that time, I was going through one of the most intense lupus flare-ups of my life. My entire body was inflamed and my hands were so swollen it felt like they were going to burst. The pain was overwhelming. Hearing Brooke Goldner share that she had healed from lupus through hyper-nourishment gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. For the first time, I truly believed that a life filled with health and joy was possible. I began making changes and slowly I saw my inflammation decrease. That experience sparked a deeper journey. I started studying lifestyle medicine, exploring root cause healing, and eventually became an integrative nutrition coach so I could support others. What started as my personal healing journey has now become a deeply meaningful mission. My next goal is to become a plant-based coach so I can continue expanding my knowledge and impact. While I've made incredible progress, I wasn't able to fully reverse the damage in my hands. Severe arthritis led me to undergo surgery last year, which turned into 6 painful procedures. It's been a long, challenging recovery. Even through the pain and trauma, I feel more committed than ever to helping others avoid the path I had to walk and to show them that healing in many forms is possible. Thank you for continuing to inspire and empower so many of us on this journey. Well, Landy, thank you for sharing your so moving story. You know what you've been through, the lupus flare, the swelling, the pain, and 6 surgeries on your hands. It's humbling to read. But for me, what is also shining through is your courage, your commitment, and your beautiful decision to turn your suffering into a mission to help other people. That is the food revolution in action, and it means the world to us. We want to support you on your path, so we're going to actually gift you with a Lume Box red light therapy device. That's one of these. Now, the red light therapy has some really compelling research behind it for pain relief, for inflammation reduction, and for tissue healing, including for joints. Studies have shown it can reduce pain by more than 50%. In some cases, it can improve mobility, and it may support the kind of cellular repair that your hands might benefit from as you continue to recover and rebuild. So our team will be in touch with you. We love the Lume Box. There's an article on our website all about red light therapy. If you go to foodrevolution.org and type in red light, you'll find it. For anybody else who's interested, you can check out the Lume Box and get an FRN member discount. I'm going to give the link here in case you want to write it down. That's foodrevolution.org/Lumebox. Lume is spelled Lume. So that's foodrevolution.org/LUMEBOX. And if you make a purchase at that link, they'll give you a 40% discount and make a contribution to support FRN's work. And we absolutely want to encourage you also on your goal of becoming a plant-based coach. The world needs more people like you who have walked through the fire and come out the other side with wisdom and with compassion. If anybody is willing to take that next step, you can find out more and save $1,000 on enrollment in our plant-based coaching certificate when you put down a $100 refundable deposit to get the insider discount. So the next cohort starts in September. Friends, you can find out more about that at certificate.foodrevolution.org. Thank you all for being a part of this revolution in all the ways that make sense to you. Now, speaking of plant-based coaching at Food Revolution Network, we believe that plant-based coaching can be a profound tool to transform lives. And every year we help hundreds of new coaches to gain the tools they need to make a difference through the plant-based coaching certificate. One of our graduates is Phyllis Leone from Chicago, Illinois. After 36 years in the financial world, Phyllis made a bold leap. She was struggling with chronic illnesses and she was tired of medications that only mask symptoms. So she changed her diet and her lifestyle and transformed her health. And today she is medication-free and pain-free and helping others. This is Phyllis's story.
You don't have to stay in that vicious cycle of symptoms management. You really can make a transition through whole food plant-based eating to a virtuous cycle of sustainable wellness and live long, healthy, vital, productive lives. My name is Phyllis Leon. I worked in the financial industry for over 36 years. So my definite purpose in life is to empower women in tech and STEM. I have a soft spot for women in tech and STEM because that's where I came from. And I recognize that in a male-dominated environment where the objective is to perform at the highest levels, sometimes you have to make choices. And oftentimes self-care gets to be one of the things that goes down your priority list. So I want to reach back out to those women, and really what took me 3 years to figure out, I want to help them expedite and get to a place of wellness in a very, very short time. So I know that turning around your health is possible because this was my story. I had struggled for years. I had succumbed to lifestyle and diet, chronic illnesses of high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And I felt so helpless. I felt so disempowered. I was so isolated. I was actually told that it was generational, that it would never go away. I'd be on medication for the rest of my life. But as the side effects from the multiple medications became visible, I just thought it would never end. What I came to understand and what I came to learn was that when we give our bodies real nutrition, our bodies know how to come back into balance. And so here I am today, a med-free, pain-free senior, and I know that it is possible to turn your health around. And so my mission is to support women, again, primarily in tech and STEM, but any woman that wants to get off of that downward cycle of deceptive foods and prescription drugs and, diminished health, and they want to get on the positive cycle of sustainable wellness. That's what I'm here for. When I received an email from Ocean Robbins from Food Revolution Network announcing their very first cohort of plant-based coaches, and immediately I knew this is for me. I thought this is absolutely amazing. The timing is perfect. I'm ready to step into this. And I just signed up, and here I am. So being a coach actually provides a doorway by which I can most significantly impact the world around me. In coaching, I have the opportunity to work with individuals that are looking for a better way so that they can be transformed from, being sick and tired of being sick and tired to a life of radiant wellness. And I am pleased to say that I have had paying clients, and it absolutely does boost my confidence. And it helps me to recognize that, yes, I am doing something that is helpful. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of working with some absolutely brilliant and wonderful women. And going through the plant-based, adopting a whole food plant-based lifestyle within a very short period of time resulted in them actually having measurable results in terms of trending weight loss, reduction in their blood pressure. And so the power of this type of eating, it is just unmistakable. And once an individual makes the decision to adopt and fully maintain this lifestyle, they see results, and the more results they see, the more they're motivated to continue. And so it's an ever perpetual upward cycle that we see on this pathway. So for me, it feels like I am making a new start. I'm on a new journey. I've transitioned out of corporate, and I am now on a pathway where I am here in service to women so that they can achieve their very highest potentials in a way that is effective, that is pain-free, that is sickness-free, so that they can have success without sickness.
Thank you so much to Phyllis for sharing that moving story. If you're curious about becoming a plant-based coach, check out certificate.foodrevolution.org. Again, that's certificate.foodrevolution.org. Claire said suggestions to lessen bloat from grains. Well, bloating from grains usually comes down to a few things. If you've recently increased your fiber intake, your gut microbiome might need some time to adjust. So going slowly and gradually increasing portions over a few weeks instead of making a huge jump all at once could be helpful. Soaking grains before cooking them helps to break down some of the compounds that can cause digestive discomfort, including phytic acid. You can actually even start them sprouting, where you soak them overnight and then rinse them every 12 hours and let them kind of start the germination process. Rinsing them thoroughly also helps with quinoa, for example. Even if you're not going to soak it first, just give it a rinse in a strainer, and that will actually help remove some of that phytic acid as well, and also make it taste a little sweeter. Cook your grains until they're fully soft instead of slightly undercooked. That can also be an easy fix for people. Chew slowly and eat mindfully. This matters more than most people realize, because digestion starts in the mouth with your saliva, and rushing meals can contribute to bloating. It's also worth paying attention if there's certain grains that bother you more than others. A lot of people find that certain grains like wheat may be harder to digest than others like oats or rice or quinoa. If bloating keeps happening across the board, it might be worth mentioning it to a healthcare provider, because it could point to something else like a gut microbiome imbalance that needs more attention, or maybe a specific food sensitivity to look into. Melinda said, has the inflammatory impact of grass-fed meat and dairy been compared to non-grass-fed or corn-fed products? My understanding is that corn-fed animals are a big contributor to inflammation due to corn being GMO in many cases, and also high in omega-6s, while grass-fed would be more omega-3s. Your thoughts? Well, Melinda, thank you for asking. Those are great questions, and your understanding is largely correct. So the fatty acid profile of meat and dairy does differ quite a bit based on what the animal ate. And grass-fed animals in general tend to have a more favorable omega-3 to omega-6 ratio compared to animals fed grains. And that matters for inflammation. So yes, grass-fed is better in that respect. That said, I want to offer a little context on just how much better, because the numbers are a little humbling. So 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed contains about 1,600 milligrams of ALA omega-3 fatty acids. An entire pound of grass-fed beef contains 250 to 350 milligrams. So you need to eat over 4 pounds, maybe 5 pounds of grass-fed beef to get as much as you'll get from 1 tablespoon of flax meal. And with all that beef, you'd be getting a lot of saturated fat along for the ride. Grass-fed does have a better omega-3 profile than grain-fed, no doubt about it. But calling grass-fed an omega-3 food is a real stretch. It's not a major source of omega-3s. The inflammatory picture with meat and dairy involves more than just fatty acid ratios. There's compounds like arachidonic acid and saturated fat and heme iron that all contribute to inflammation pretty much regardless of how the animal was raised. So if you're going to eat meat and dairy, grass-fed and pasture-raised is genuinely better for the animal. It's better for the environment, and it's better for your inflammatory status. But for omega-3s, a tablespoon of flax seeds beats 5 pounds of beef. And in general, don't look to meat for omega-3s. And in general, whole foods, plant-based for the win when it comes to driving down chronic inflammation. As we've mentioned, we have 3 more extended expert interviews every day of the summit, and today we're featuring interviews with Dr. Helen Powell-Stoddart on From Pain to Wellness, how food can fight chronic inflammation. Dr. Stoddart's clinic is focused on helping people get out of chronic pain with diet and lifestyle. You'll learn all about that from her today. We have an interview with Dr. Brooke Goldner on reversing autoimmune disease, how raw greens, omega-3s, and hyper-nourishment can change everything. If you're struggling with an autoimmune condition, I highly recommend you check that one out. And we've got Dr. William Lee on Eat to Defend, how your body's 5 health systems fight disease. So these are all some great resources, and as soon as we finish today, I encourage you all to check them out while they're on replay as well. For the day after the summit wraps up each day, we have 3 more expert interviews on replay. Of course, Empowerment Package owners have unlimited access. Speaking of putting today's wisdom into practice, we also have 3 recipes of the day to help you bring anti-inflammatory eating straight to your kitchen. These are from Rosie McKay, certified nutrition specialist and licensed dietitian nutritionist. So today our recipes of the day include savory turmeric fonio porridge. Golden turmeric and mushrooms and leafy greens come together over a base of fonio, which is a naturally gluten-free ancient grain that's gentle on digestion. Then we have the beet carrot turmeric juice. This is bold in color, bright in flavor, and loaded with antioxidant-rich carotenoids and fresh turmeric. It's a fast and refreshing way to give your body a little calm. And finally, we've got the rainbow salad with carrot ginger dressing. A wide spectrum of colorful veggies with a zippy carrot ginger dressing and gut-supportive miso. This is anti-inflammatory eating that actually tastes like something you will love. Mary said, thanks so much. This is my 7th summit. I'm hoping you can address peanut butter powder since it's become very popular. Is it something good for me? The oil has been removed, but it's ultra processed. Mary, thanks for asking. So powdered peanut butter sits somewhere in the middle when it comes to how we might think about processed foods. The oil removal process does make it lower in fat and calories, and it still retains a good amount of protein and some of the other nutrients that are found in whole peanuts. So it's not without merit, but from my perspective, whole food options are almost always preferable when possible. Natural peanut butter that's made just from peanuts or other whole nut and seed butters give you the full package, including the healthy fats that are actually beneficial for heart and brain health. When the oils are removed, you're also losing some of those benefits. So the other thing worth looking at is the ingredient list, because sugar and salt are often added to powdered peanut butter and non-powdered peanut butter too, for that matter. They're thought to improve the taste, especially when fat is removed. If you do use it, look for a version that's as clean as possible with no added sugar and minimal ingredients. I think it's a reasonable occasional option, especially if you're trying to boost your protein intake. But I personally prefer natural peanut butter, which I'm a fan of, by the way. I think, we have all these different nut butters and seed butters, and they all have benefits, but peanut butter is about the highest protein you'll find. There's like 8 grams of protein, plant protein, in 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and it's more economical. So if you can go with a low sodium or salt-free option that doesn't have additives like palm oil or sugar, you're getting something pretty natural that can be pretty darn healthy. Renee said, excited to be a part of this summit. 7 years ago, I attended my first Food Revolution Summit, and it changed my life for the better. It made me want to help others, so I'm also now in the FRN Plant-Based Coaching Certificate, because the teaching is so powerful, and I've seen firsthand how putting this information into action can heal people's lives, including my own. Thank you, Ocean, to you and your father for teaching me how to heal myself. I owe so much to both of you. Thanks for all you do. I'm happy to be part of the food revolution. Renee, thank you for sharing. I'm so glad that this work has had an impact on your life in a positive way, and now that you're wanting to share that with others. And that is so true for so many of us. Once we have our health in order and we receive those benefits, we naturally want to give, want to serve, want to support. And that's the beauty of this community. There's so much generosity. In the hundreds of thousands of people that are in this summit, there are so many kind, generous, giving human beings who are thoughtful, intelligent, creative, and caring, and committed. So thank you so much, Renee, for being one of them, and I hope everyone can feel the love and the connection that's here, because it's super real. Now, before we wrap up today, I want to make sure you know about something brand new this year that I'm really excited about. Those of you who are Empowerment Package owners, have exclusive access to daily Live with the Expert sessions every day of the summit. These are live, intimate Zoom conversations where you can bring your real questions to our featured speakers. So for those of you who already have the empowerment package, today's session with Dr. Rita Marie Lascalzo will start at the top of the hour in about 22 minutes. Rita Marie is one of the top inflammation and gut health experts I know. She's brilliant. She'll be joining us again at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are a free registrant in the summit and you want in, you still can upgrade to the empowerment package using your access link, or you'll get an access link for the Zoom right away. There's a link on the broadcast page, or go to summit.foodrevolution.org/empowerment, and then you can jump right in. I hope to see a lot of you in about 20 minutes. And we are now approaching the end of day 2. So come on back and join us tomorrow when we go live at 7:45 a.m. Pacific Time, 10:45 Eastern, 2:45 GMT. We're going to be broadcasting episode 3, which focuses on how to love your heart, reversing cardiovascular and diabetes risk. It's going to be incredible. There's a lot of new research this year we want to share with you. In the meantime, the replay from today's broadcast will be available right on this page as soon as we're done, along with today's expert interviews. You can also explore the empowerment package. You can dive into the recipes and keep the conversation going in the comments. And for those of you who are empowerment package owners, I hope to see you at the top of the hour with Dr. Rita Marie. We are wishing you all a wonderful, thriving day. This is Ocean Robbins signing off from day 2 of the Food Revolution Summit. And here's a look at what's coming up tomorrow.
Heart disease is the world's #1 killer. Type 2 diabetes is exploding. Together, they're devastating families and overwhelming healthcare systems. But what if it didn't have to be this way?
We found the arteries got less clogged after 1 year. 99% of the patients by PET scan stopped to reverse the progression of their disease.
I saw something I had never seen before, which was diabetes going away.
It actually shocked me how fast their health improved. In a week, their blood glucose was down 50 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. We had about 23% of people that reversed completely, went into remission.
I was in the 15th percentile of plaque buildup. I went from a cholesterol of 134 to about a year later, 70. My triglycerides went from, I think, 138, if I'm not mistaken, to like 50. My cardiologist said, okay, you're good, as I lost 40 pounds. All my heart markers are back to normal. Now I'm in control of, hopefully, my health for a very long time.
I saw a patient whose blood pressure was dangerously high. He was willing to do a big diet overhaul. His blood pressure went to completely normal levels within less than 2 weeks.
About 85% of today's chronic diseases, whether that's cardiovascular disease, diabetes, neurodegenerative, certain cancers, can be related to lifestyle.
Eat spinach or beets. This dilation or relaxation of your blood vessels starts within a half an hour. Food is medicine.
It's time to discover the foods, the habits, and the choices that are proven to help prevent and reverse cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. This wisdom will change your life in the best possible way. At Food Revolution Network, we believe healthy, sustainable food should be for everyone. And when you give your body the right fuel, you can thrive. Each year, the Food Revolution Summit features world-renowned experts sharing life-changing insights. But with so much wisdom, it can be hard to take it all in at once. That's why we created the Empowerment Package. Lifetime access to every summit episode and interview, full transcripts, and over $1,000 in bonuses to help you absorb and apply it all at your own pace. When you invest in an empowerment package, you're taking a stand for your health. And you're also investing in the food revolution. You're joining a movement that's changing the course of history. Plus, with every package purchased, we donate to Trees for the Future, so they can plant another organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. So if you want to nourish your body, support those you love, and help to heal the planet, this is your moment. Join us, support the mission, Get your empowerment package today.